Okay, now, ni example implementation. How can we use the principle when we want to translate it into practice? Now, I'm using my own example and I'm using problem-based learning, but this is very much applicable to projects. So if you are doing projects, you might want to use some of these ideas. Okay. Now, a common approach to a project is that we give them at the beginning of the semester and we only take the product at the end of the semester. This is not actually helpful because there's no scaffolding in between, and they don't get feedback. So just an overview of problem-based learning to see why I assess the way I'm assessing, because it has to do with the philosophy of PBL. The normal way that we teach, the commonly used method is deductive teaching and learning. Okay. So what I'm using is inductive teaching and learning, where students start with a problem. Yeah. So we give them a problem, they identify what they need to learn, and they learn it, of course, with guidance, and apply it to solve the problem. Now, this is the basic cycle. It starts with phase 1, where the students actually identify the problem. Okay, students identify the problem. This is the phase 1. Then phase 2 is the learning phase. Okay, in the learning phase, we also guide them. There's a lot of guidance in this place. And in phase 3, this is the end of it, where they present the result, there's reflection, there's closure. Okay, so it doesn't end when they get the solution. There's a lot more to the learning rather than just getting the solution, because we need to help them internalize what they're doing and help them generalize it. Okay, now I use a model of problem-based learning that is very similar to the medical school model, but this is only for small groups of students, maximum 10 or 12. Okay, and they have a dedicated facilitator. What I use in my class, because I have 40 students in my class, I combine it with cooperative learning. Now, these are the principles of cooperative learning. Oops. Now, if you are interested, if you Google cooperative learning, Carl Smith or Richard Felder, you can get a lot of articles, because cooperative learning actually has very strong research backing on how to develop team working skills among students. Now, the principle of from the principles of cooperative learning, we can actually extract out 3 steps, in ensuring that students learn together. You have to let the students do it individually first, then they interact with their team members, then it's an overall class instruction so that they can, they can get feedback on whatever it is they're learning or their understanding or their performance. Okay, next.
I think I can give one example, like if let's say how we're going to do this online. So for example, like you give certain kind of questions to be addressed by the students, and then the students have to think on their own first, and then we give instruction for them to pair up, some collaborative work, and finally there is a platform for them to share their findings, and we give feedback to the students. So this is where actually it follows these steps.
Okay, yep. Okay, next. Now, this is the full cooperative problem-based learning structure. If you're interested, there's also a lot of papers on this that we have written. So based on this, now, remember, assessment drives learning. If I just ask the students to, okay, you need to restate the problem, you need to identify the problem without really assessing them, then I don't know how they are performing and I cannot give them feedback, and most probably a lot of them will not do it. Okay, so whatever you see here appearing, if it's in red color, that means I give them marks. So PRPI stands for problem restatement and problem identification. So I ask the students to do it individually and they get assessed for it. They get marks and they get feedback, so that the next time around when we do the cycle again, they know how to improve. In terms of the overall class problem identification, we ask them to discuss in their team and they have to bring it to class. And we do an overall class. We compare what are their restatements, how do they identify the problem, and then we do an overall class so that they can see at this stage what actually they have to learn. What are the learning issues and what the problem actually is. Now, to get them to learn, whatever it is that they have to learn, they have to prepare their individual notes first. So individual PTN is individual peer teaching notes, and they have to submit this. So these are their notes for learning. And since it's the first time they are learning, we encourage them also to put in questions on the things that they don't understand and whatever it is that they are still vague on. And they share this with their teammates where they have to submit a team peer teaching mind map. So it's just a mind map so that they can summarize what they have understood and the questions that they have among the team. And we select several teams for a presentation for an overall class discussion. Okay, so they get feedback at this time also. Now, these are all submitted. If you have an online platform like the e-learning, the team peer teaching mind map, I asked them to share this in the forum, electronic forum. The PR and PI from the team is also shared in the forum. So instead of having it face to face, I converted everything by using the e-learning forum so that they can see what everybody else is doing and how to synthesize and get the best from what they're learning. The idea is for them to help each other to learn. And if they have questions, they will post questions on the forum. So that's why it's uploaded onto a forum so that everybody can see it and they can have interaction in the forum. Now once, yes?
To add on, Prof.
Yep.
Let's say the team wanted to do the mind map. So you can use this online collaborative software, Koggle.it, as what I wrote on the group chat too. So you use that for free, and you can add on collaborators kat situ. So you actually, the students can do the mind map together.
Okay. Thank you, Tazli. Okay, now after they've done, they have decided on how to learn, how to apply the knowledge, solve the problem, and so on, they will have to submit. Okay, by the way, usually we do a progress check. So progress check is sometimes you can do it in terms of an overall class progress check. Yeah, this can be done through the forum, or you can do it team by team. Okay, individually with each team. So it's up to you. You can either do it through a forum or even through WhatsApp or Telegram. So it doesn't have to be something, but of course, if your students have very good connection, then having a virtual face-to-face discussion would be the best. Okay, but we have to understand that some of the students have very bad internet connection. Okay, now the presentation, what I'm doing now in my class is I ask them to make a video presentation. Okay, just use PowerPoint, make a video presentation and upload the video presentation, and other students will post questions and we will have a discussion. So the closure can be done through also a video. Because I have to listen to some of their discussion, normally I will use the online synchronous mode to listen to their discussion, or if there's any questions, a Q&A session where it's easier to handle online, then that would be best dealt with through synchronous mode. Okay, next. Now we have a peer rating form that students submit, and they also get feedback from their friends through this peer rating. The whole team will also get feedback on how to improve how their team work. Now, if possible, I do not want to impose myself on how they want to arrange how their team work. Now, again, this is a very challenging time because my students have to work in a team and they're far apart. They've never worked as a virtual team. What I have done is that I have asked them to rewrite their team goal, team regulations, and the expectations. Okay, they need to understand each other. What is the condition at their homes like? What is their study area like? And what's the commitment among the team? So on our part, when I ask my students what their conditions are, I've decided to make the timeline bigger. Yeah, because they are not face to face, they are not in the same place, as they were previously. So for them to execute things online, it seems to be slower. So I have to give them more time than what I had previously done before. So this is the adjustment that I have to make for my students. I cannot just give them a last minute deadline. They will never be able to do it.
There is a question, Prof.
Yes.
For
Yes.
peer rating, do we include as formative marks?
Okay. It depends on how you do it. Our advice is, and even if you look at cooperative learning, if you have a long-term project, from long-term meaning that it's a semester-long project. If it's a semester-long project, do not do the peer rating just at the end. You have to do the peer rating in every part of the project. Yeah, that is why if you have a proposal part, do the peer rating then. So then the students will have a platform to provide ideas to their team on how to improve. Then they go to the next part. When they go to the next part, let's say you have a progress check one. So progress check one, also you can also do another peer rating then. Dr. Tazli has written auto rating. I use the peer rating in terms of the marks along with auto rating. So you can Google the paper auto rating. It's actually very simple. So how reliable is peer rating? If you do it only once, it's not reliable at all. Do not do peer rating once. It's no use. When we do peer rating, the recommendation is at least 4 times in a semester. And the students have to see that the peer rating is really helping them. So the purpose of the peer rating, that's why it's blue in this line. It's not red. Because it's not so much for the marks. If the team is really working well and the feedback is working well, by the end of the semester, everybody will be giving each other full marks. Now, before you give the peer rating, what I do is I advise the students, I explain to the students what is the purpose of the peer rating and feedback. It's not so much of the rating, it's the feedback. How do you design the peer rating rubric? There's a whole lot on the internet. I also use one. So if you really want a sample peer rating, I can give it to you. Okay. Jehana, in Unit 10, we did a workshop on cooperative learning. You have to talk to Dr. Tahara. It's in the book, at the end of the workbook. So peer rating, the purpose is more of as a feedback on how to help the team improve how they work. When you explain to them, this is actually, even writing the team feedback is very important. It's a very important skill because everybody has to know how to give feedback. You don't want to kill people with your feedback. Okay. So this is something that is, something that you just cannot give to this. Okay, do this. You have to explain to them why it's important. And I actually take a few minutes in my class to discuss the feedback. Yeah. So as a team, what are the 3 things that they have to improve on so that they can be better in the next round? As a team, what are the things that they should keep up with? So this is called the plus delta method. Plus delta method is actually used by Boeing. So how to get your team to improve, the plus delta method is very, very powerful. So usually if this is done, a lot of students gave me feedback that it helps them to air out their grievances. It helps them to get everybody on the same page. Yeah.
I also, on my behalf, I think I have also incorporate one of the Petronas way of doing feedback, individual feedback. So what I did in the form is actually I include constructive and appreciative feedback that each individuals can give to their team members. So in a way that they also asked to appreciate what their team members has contributed to them, and they could also give some constructive feedback. So it's not really a feedback yang sakit ke hati.
So we have done a lot of research on this structure and it does work. So the cooperative problem-based learning framework is not only in the form of how the students do the learning part, it's also how we assess them. Like I said, when we give projects or when we give problems, we have to give them a chance to improve. So how we arrange the problems and how we arrange the project is also part of scaffolding. So what we do is normally the setting or the scenario gets more and more complex as the term goes on. Okay. So it depends on our intention, what we want the students to achieve. So hopefully they will improve. it's not only, I was hoping when I designed this that they will improve. But from research, we have found out that indeed they have improved a lot by leaps and bounds. Yeah. But initially, in the first and second part, when we gave the problems to them, we really need to be patient because initially they will not be that happy. Yeah. But with proper motivation and proper scaffolding, this is doable. So like I said, when you transform things online, we still need to motivate the students. I just spent a session motivating the students because everybody was down. They say it's so much slower. They have, sometimes they send a message, their teammates did not respond, and this and that, this and that. So I have to explain to them, this is also new to me because I don't like to do things online. Because I cannot see their faces. I cannot see their body language. So it's the same for everyone, and we are in this together. So this is very important. Motivate your students. Yeah, try to understand them. Okay, these are just sample problems. Just to show you that it can be done, but it has to be done with proper planning. So if you are doing a project, try to divide your projects into parts, because when you divide your projects into parts, it's easier to assess them and to also provide feedback to them. So this will really be a very good way of having formative assessment and at the same time tracking the process and assessing the process. Okay, now this is another example, a zine assignment. So in case you're wondering what is a zine assignment, the word magazine. So it's a collection of articles. It means that a zine is a collection of articles or artifacts or something, or anything that you want a collection of. You know how a magazine is like? You have a collection of a whole lot of different articles in a magazine. You can actually arrive to very high outcomes, ranging from application analysis to synthesis. I learned about this zine assignment from a friend, a very good friend, who's a professor at the Human-Centered Design Engineering Department at the University of Washington, Professor Jennifer Turns. Now, if you want to give a zine assignment, this is an example of a zine assignment from Jennifer. So she called it a virtual notebook. She says the students in the end has to make a zine. This is on ethics, the ethics of research. By the way, this is a graduate program. This is not an undergraduate program. I'm going to show you how I do it for my undergraduate course. So she guided the students with several different phases. So this is the first pass. First pass is her first phase. And she guided them with what to think of, how to do it, what to prepare for. Okay, so this is the second part. What are they supposed to do in the second part? And she gave them templates on how to bring out the ideas. She was asking them to look at research papers and how ethics is considered in the research papers. How do they handle ethics? How do they talk about ethics? Yeah. And how do they extract out the information? These are some of the discussions among the students that she monitored. Okay, should we talk about ethics? Yes. What are the yes points? What are the no points? And these are some ideas, some other ideas. Yeah. Okay, this is what I've done. Yeah. Now, in my process control and instrumentation class, now instrumentation, it's, we can give them calculations, but since the instrumentation is packed into process control, and I want to make sure that all of them have an understanding of instruments, the basic parts of instrumentation, let's say the different types of sensors, the different types of final control elements, the signal conditioners, the types of controllers. So I asked them to produce an instrument zine. Okay, and based on the instrument zine, just take any plant, piping and instrumentation diagram, and talk about how are the different types of instrumentation being applied in a plant. Okay, and the guidelines that I provided for them, for example, I tell them you have to have the what is it, why is it being used, where is it being used, how is it being used, and when is it mostly used. Okay, so That would also include instrument selection and so on. I've never published the zine. I don't know whether I can get to that stage, but I can publish how I write the students learn from the zine. Okay. By the way, you have to really, for undergraduates, you really have to tell them it has to be rewritten. It cannot be just copy and pasted. It has to show their understanding. Okay.
Next one, actually, we have a question for
Okay.
us.
Question.
What are the
I've never published the zine. Okay.
What are the possible zine assignment can you give to the students? Can you share your ideas? What are the things that you feel, okay, I can give this to my students? How long do you take for Prof for them to complete the zine?
The zine, okay. Now, if it's face-to-face, I can give them just about two to 3 weeks. Now we have extended it to about 1 month plus. So just to give them more time. Do you have ideas how this can be used in any of the courses that you're teaching?
Hello, Prof. Khairiyah.
Yes.
Good morning.
Yes.
You here?
Yes.
This zine assignment is kind of new to me. I just want to know, what's the gist about zine assignment? It's
Okay.
kind of new.
Zine is, if you have a magazine, it's a collection of different types of articles. So when I did the instrument zine, it's a collection of information about different parts of instrumentation and different instruments in a plant. So that is my instrument zine. The objective, the outcome that I want to get from there is up to the level of, actually it's only up to the level of application. However, the example that I gave just now, Jennifer was using it to the level of synthesis. Yeah, that is why her guidance and the way she guided her students, it's very detailed, and there's several sessions where she gives them feedback. So she's using the assessment as a learning approach in her class on why ethics is really important, because the course that she was teaching was research ethics. Okay, so it's up to us how we want to design it, but in the end, her students develop a zine on the different research articles that they have read about and the different ways of approaching ethics in the course. I cannot show you her students' product because she has to get the students' permission. So she was not able to give me permission to share the products, but she gave me the permission to share how she guided the students. That's why I showed you my zine, my students' zine, okay, the instrument zine.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Okay.
I understand. Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Okay, so we have some feedback here, which is application. I think I read down here for coding tutorial, for Python programming, application of real world on forecasting data. I like the idea here is about the architecture. Collecting the rejected ideas and compile them into a zine might be a great idea. Yes.
Yes. And why they are rejected.
Finite state machine around you. Here, electromagnetic fields in everyday's life. And
wow, a lot of ideas.
Yes, there's plenty of ideas.
That's very good. Congratulations.
Okay, let's have a look to the...
Somebody says it can be used to analyze court cases. Yes, definitely. Somebody has a question here. In terms of scaffolding, how do we... Now, if your students have learning disabilities, I'm not an expert in learning disabilities. Okay? Now, I know that some students have ADHD. Yeah? Like I said, those with learning disabilities normally would require more time. It's not like they are not smart people. And those with learning disabilities, when you have team working outcomes, that would be difficult. But then get the class to understand and get them to talk about it. Because I've never experienced this. But from what I've read, there are students with learning disabilities, but they are very smart. Now, even though they are very smart, cognitively they are very smart, but in terms of handling people, they are disabled. Yeah, they cannot understand certain things because they are disabled. But they can develop it. Yeah, they can develop an understanding of being with how to interact with people, but it takes time. So we need to develop empathy in our students. And I don't have a clear-cut answer, but what I do in my class is I try to get everybody to understand everybody else. Now, if you can refer to this, there is an ebook available, How People Learn Framework by Bransford. Now, the How People Learn framework says that the most important factor in having an effective learning environment, and this is overarching, is to have a community. Having a community in our classroom that is supportive, that is safe for our students. So we need to get our students to understand and feel secure in our class. So no matter what is their ability, they will try to develop empathy, they will try to understand other people, and they will try to help each other. Okay. So having a community of practice, a strong community in the classroom is very, very important actually. And even more so when you have disabled people in your class. Okay.
The Zine steps.
Okay, Zine steps. Have an activity. Why are we okay? The Zine steps are this. It's basically the same as the general step. Not have an activity, but determine the outcome first. What is the outcome that you want? Why are you doing it? And then if the Zine can bring out the active verb in your outcome, and you can use it as an assessment tool. Okay, the students can use it for learning, and you can also use it for assessment, then use it. Okay, so always think of the outcome, what we want to get from the outcome. So the activity follows the outcome or follows our intention. What is it that we want the students to get? So the why we are doing it is because we want to help the students get a certain outcome. We want the students to learn something. We want the students to be able to do something. Yeah.